Welcome to another edition of Cult Pop. I'm your host, Jim Hall, and we've got a really cool show today. We're out in Troy, Michigan at the 2008 Penguicon. We have wonderful times there every year. We're going to talk with Matt Arnold. Matt's kind of been our go-to guy every year. He helps us out, gets us in contact with the right people, and all the wonderful authors you see when we do these particular episodes. Today we're going to talk with Matt. He's going to tell us about the convention and some of the just cool things that go on. I know a lot of you aren't familiar with that particular convention, so you can learn a little bit about it. Then later on in the show, we're going to meet up with sci-fi legend Vernor Vinge. And when I say sci-fi legend, I mean legend. Multiple Hugo winner, just an absolute delight. And I've got to tell you, I was just thrilled to have the opportunity to interview this man. A real legend. We love all the guests we have on here, but an absolute legend and a lot of fun. And he was a delightful and insightful interview, so I think you'll really enjoy that. But if you stay tuned right now, we're going to talk with Matt Arnold. He's going to tell us all about Penguicon, what a unique and interesting science fiction convention it is, and how its connection with the computer world and science fiction makes it unique amongst science fiction conventions. So stay tuned for Cult Pop.
With nerves of steel, with incomparable courage, with fierce determination, with uncompromising resolve, they go. And wherever and whenever they go, the USO will be there to touch their spirit, to comfort them, to remind them, to simply and heartfully thank them for the extraordinary gift they give us all. Until every brow is soothed and every hand is held, until every battle's won and every song is sung, until everyone comes home.
I'm at the 2008 Penguicon, and right now I'm with Matt Arnold, and Matt's representing Penguicon, a wonderful event every year. They're nice enough to host us. We're able to meet all these wonderful people, and every year there's just fantastic stuff going on. Matt, thank you so much for having us again this year, and why don't you just jump right in and tell us about all the great stuff going on this year.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we're really excited because it's bigger than ever. We've got something around 300 different events happening with more than 200 presenters, so that it's almost like multiple conventions in one. The open source software convention, the science fiction convention, gaming, webcomics, comedy music concerts. It's as if anybody who has these interests can come and see an entire convention of their own and also see all the people who are visiting all the other ones at the same time.
Matt, that's one thing that I'm really impressed with Penguicon is the diversity of all the things going on. You've got an incredible array of artists, authors, different people specializing in different types of computer stuff, and then all kinds of cool attractions. Tell us about some of the unique attractions that people will run into at the convention.
We got some new ones this year, such as the giant singing Tesla coils. Because in addition to having guests of honor, we decided why not have what you might call a hack of honor, a machine, an invention that is so cool to witness and experience with your own eyes. These 8-foot tall Tesla coils that make music with lightning have been giving concerts.
Wow.
It's so amazing and impressive. They're considering calling it the Zeusophone as the name of the instrument. Another thing that's happening is we've got a capsule toy vending machine which dispenses adventures and missions that people can go on to explore different parts of the convention just because it is so big that they might have otherwise missed. This is run by the people who created the Morton's List adventure game. Then we've got all kinds of spectacular guests of honor who are creating sort of a crossover more than ever before between all the various different parts of the convention, which we try to specialize in. This year we've got an artist's alley, which has, you might say, a focus on art where people can, all of these artists can set up on tables and sell and autograph their works. So we're really impressed and proud of how big it is.
Now with some of your guests and how they kind of go across the genre. Vernor Vinge, one of your guests of honor as an author, but also very known for his technology and early writings in regards to technology and cyberspace and stuff like that. So a perfect guest for this type of convention.
A great example of crossover.
And then you've got so many other wonderful authors here this year. Sherry Priest, John Scalzi, just to name Elizabeth Bear's returning. I saw her walking around. And one of the things I love about Penguicon is everybody's just so darn nice. And that as long as the author's not in a personal, private conversation, you can certainly just walk right up, and the musicians, the authors, the different people here, everybody's more than happy to see you and talk with you here.
That's the kind of people we like to get. Not somebody who will just, only sign an autograph for $25, but
Right.
would love to just sit down with you in the convention suite, the hospitality suite, which serves complimentary food and snacks and soft drinks and even free beer all weekend.
Well, I'm a big fan of the free beer, Matt. And that's another thing I wanted to bring up is that multiple floors here, and on all 3 floors, different people have parties. Different people get together and maybe rent rooms, and then we'll have maybe gaming going on in a particular room. Maybe something going on with computers, maybe different plays going on and stuff. But it's literally, when this convention's going on, there's hundreds of different things going on every hour.
And it is around the clock. Even when programming starts to die down in the function space, just like you said, there's all these room parties to go to all night. In fact, one of the things that I'm particularly proud of that was happening in the middle of the night is a puppet show that we're putting on for the first time, which actually blends horror and comedy, a little bit of funny, a little bit of scary, and is a musical.
All right.
So it's kind of this weird, bizarre thing.
Very cool. I also know you have musical guests, and they usually perform after about 7 or 8 o'clock. I know there's usually some kind of little concerts going on and stuff like that. So some of the adult fun, but it's family fun, but there's also a lot of adult fun too. Later on in the night, there's parties at the different rooms and whatnot. So it's definitely a good time for everybody.
Absolutely.
Now, as people see this, obviously the 2008 Penguicon will be done, but 2009 will be right around the corner, and this is the time to actually start thinking about it.
Yeah, that's true. Next year, I'm going to be the convention chair, and we're going to be in Romulus at the Crown Plaza Hotel. That will be May 1 through 3.
Okay.
Some of our guests of honor that year are going to be Will Wheaton from Star Trek, who is actually a great Linux geek. So he's big into open source software as well. Then we'll have Spider Robinson, the fantasy and science fiction author of Callahan's Bar and so many other novels. Our new hack of honor for that year will be a printer that prints 3-dimensional sculptures out of sugar that you can eat.
Well, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Well, I can't stress enough that I know that early on in the process, Matt, if people are going to be interested in next year, contact you folks at your website, which we have up.
Absolutely.
And because already for this year's site, if I wanted to get a room, you have to go down to another hotel because the rooms are long ago sold out. So why don't you just say your website real quick so people know, and give us the date one more time for next year.
Okay, that's penguicon.org, and anyone can contact me at chair@penguicon.org. It will be May 1 through 3, 2009 in Romulus.
Okay, well, Matt, thank you so much for being on the show. Penguicon is an absolutely wonderful, fun event to come to every year. Something to be proud of for sci-fi fans, computing fans, all kinds of stuff in Michigan. Make it a part of your schedule every year. It's in early May. Great people, a lot of friendly people. You can make new friends, run into a lot of old ones. Every year we come to this con now. This is our 4th year, I believe. And every year we're running into old friends and making new ones. So I just can't recommend enough that you show up. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Cult Pop. Welcome back to Cult Pop. I'm your host, Jim Hall, and with me now is an absolute science fiction legend. Vernor Vinge, multiple Hugo winner, absolute legend, and I'm just an absolute huge fan, and I'm almost speechless, which is hard for me to be. Mr. Vinge, I'm just so happy to have you on the show.
Pleasure to be here, Jim.
Thank you so much for being on. Let's just jump right in, sir. You're a legend in science fiction. Most notably, and one of the reasons I think you're here with the convention, is the way in the past you've kind of come up with so many concepts and ideas that now seem to be commonplace in our world. And your Hugo winners and early novels have come up with just different sciences and technologies that today are right there for us. The different internet stuff going on, and Neil Stephenson's work has been said that very much of his stuff is just because of the wonderful stuff, that the road that you started to pave for him. Tell us a little bit about your early work, how the science is such an important aspect of your science fiction, where it may not be in a lot of science fiction writers?
First of all, I should say that somebody like Neil Stephenson is quite able to do all of this without having been
yes, sir.
Inspired. He is a genius. For myself, the technology was always the springboard or the edge that I had, because I did have a technical background. I was not an especially good writer, but I think any beginning writer should trade on their strengths, and my strength was that a lot of the stuff that I did have more exposure to it than many people. In fact, one thing that's often said about writing in general, and well, in particular about science fiction, is that, oh, it's just a mirror of the present. And there's an enormous amount of truth to that statement, but it ignores the fact that it's a mirror of the writer's present, and that depending on where the writer is coming from, his present may be kind of a weird place. For instance, Orwell's background and experience in the places that he was living made it possible for him to mirror his presence and write stuff that was very striking to other people. And in my case, my present was reading all sorts of stuff about computers and automation, and reading a lot of science fiction and interpreting everything that was going on through that lens. For instance, my story, True Names, was essentially about the internet, very like what we have now. There were some aspects of it that are more advanced than what we have now.
And that's 20-some years old.
Right, that I think was published in 1982. And at the time, I was teaching computer science at San Diego State University, and we had just gotten a time-shared operating system, and I think there were 2 telephone numbers you could call in from the outside to get on that computer. And occasionally I would check out a very bulky device that had a keyboard that you could plug into, and you could also check out the modem,
Sure.
and you could go home and you could call into school. And so I was actually at home, and I was able to log into school, and the actual internet did exist at that time. It did exist at that time, but we were not on it at that time. On the other hand, this gave me the opportunity to do that sort of experience. And in one case, I was actually logged in from home, and there was this program called the Talk program, which allowed other people to sort of break in on your session. And so you'd see, like, instant messaging
sure.
would appear on the screen. And somehow I had left that option turned on, and someone started talking to me, and neither of us wanted to admit who we were.
Sure.
So we made up these names, and we talked for a few minutes, and then I didn't want to keep talking, and so I said, well, I have to go now, because actually I'm a personality simulator, and if we continued this chat, that would become so glaringly obvious that it would no longer be an effective simulation.
Oh, great.
Oh, okay, goodbye. And so after I cut the connection to the talk session, I just sat back and realized, by the standards of my childhood, I had just lived a science fiction story.
Sure.
And really, True Names, which is mainly about the internet, True Names was one of the easiest things that I ever wrote.
Well,
it was
that's an incredibly classic story, and as we talked off camera, it's one of the many books where you have a book that disappears, even if you buy it again and again, because a friend will say, oh, I wanted to read that, and grab it, and that's a classic. Sir, with so many incredible novels and so many Hugo wins, it's hard to jump from book to book. I brought a couple that I'm just such a big fan of. Rainbow's End,
right.
A newer one, just a few years ago, but once again, talking about technology and what may or may not come to pass.
Right. Rainbow's End is my most recent novel, and it actually is a near future, 2025 or so, and I found that very, very hard to write, anytime you write about the near future, you're in trouble because you know that, while it's still in print, that there will be things about it that have been scooped or contradicted.
Right, wrong.
And in my case, I write so slowly that I became seriously convinced that I was going to be scooped or contradicted before I had even turned in the book, which is, that's really too much. And there are a couple things like that that happened in the story. And in what the story, the tagline for the story, which is not fully, the whole story is definitely not about this, but the tagline is it's about a recovering Alzheimer's patient. And when I tell that to people, they sort of, because the contradiction there,
yes.
Our present understanding of that disease. And I was thinking to myself as I was writing it, maybe by the time the story comes out, they'll have that cured, and damn. But then I thought that would be, I wouldn't mind if they managed to
That would
cure,
be a great thing.
if the story got contradicted in that way, that would be super. And if it got, and I think there's a real chance that long before the story takes place, 2025, long before that, many types of Alzheimer's, or Alzheimer's as it's known entirely, will be curable.
Well, hopefully it will be, but the story will still have legs. It's an incredible novel. I guess I'd like to ask you, what novel for folks at home just learning about you, what novel would you like to tell them about? What is your pride and joy?
The two long novels that I had before Rainbow's End were A Fire Upon the Deep and this, which is A Deepness in the Sky, the second one. And Deepness in the Sky may be the longest and most complicated book that I have written, and in fact it is probably the best book. But the more important question for someone who's never read any book would be the way you asked it. What is the first one a person might want to try to read? And if a person likes space adventure stories, I think A Fire Upon the Deep is a good one to start with.
That's a fabulous, fabulous novel. Coming to conventions like this, where you're kind of the master of ceremony, the legend, if you will, coming here, talk, if you will, about the feelings of interacting with fans. That I'm one of those fans, my producer Jerry is one of those fans that have just been long time fans, and then having the opportunity to meet you. I assume that's very gratifying.
Yes, actually, getting to talk to people about the writing, people who actually have read the stories and enjoyed the stories, is one of the big pluses. And in science fiction, since in large part it's about ideas, different people like the stories for different reasons. One of my highest priorities in writing a story is to have a fun adventure story. However, there are other things going on in the story, and very often people who really like ideas and are technically oriented people, they also enjoy the adventure part. And as a science fiction writer, one plus there is that I've gotten to talk to all sorts of people who are really experts about different aspects of the things that I'm writing about. And those are things that I'm interested in. So for instance, this interview is being conducted at the Penguicon convention, which is a Linux and science fiction convention. And there are people here that if I were not a science fiction writer, that I might be very interested in talking to, but I would really never have much opportunity to talk to them. So, and certainly I would not have the opportunity to take them aside and say, I want you to explain this to me. I want you to take 15 minutes or 20 minutes of your time and explain this to me. That would be even less likely for some of the people that I might most want to, whose brains I might most want to pick. So over the years, in all sorts of different domains of specialty and expertise, there's been opportunities to talk to people. There's also the fact that if a person thinks, this is also, getting away from fiction, but it's a strength of fiction, and that is, suppose a person has all sorts of ideas about the way the world should be. You can write essays. In fact, you actually can make a lot of money if you write book-length things that are really catchy. But it's also true that it doesn't grab the soul that fiction in the way that fiction does. And so it's a remarkable fact that you can oftentimes be more convincing with fiction than you can be with a factual essay. Not that people are fooled by the story,
Right.
but the thing is, they're attracted by the characters. If you build up a good character who may be peddling a line that this reader would not give 30 seconds of attention to otherwise, you can actually create a situation where this willing suspension of disbelief actually works as a tool of making a convincing argument, because you have a reader that might otherwise be skeptical that is willing to give a social or a political idea a chance that they wouldn't otherwise. And so I have some friends who like science fiction that that they're really into the stories because of things that otherwise they might have only gotten in a nonfiction thing, and might never have been especially swayed by them if they encountered them in nonfiction.
So it's a way to encourage thought-provoking ideas
Yes.
while using a story or metaphor, and I think you do an amazing job. Sir, I'd kind of like to go and continue on that chain of thought, but also with something we were discussing earlier, and that is with one of your early books talking about the internet, predating the internet by 20-some years and thinking of all that. Now having this 26, 27 years later, what is your thought on the incredible growth of the internet and all the things from you can go to Wikipedia and supposedly get any question answered. You can see any girl you want online. You can see any boy you want online. You can talk to people across the world. What is your thought about the incredible growth of the internet?
A few weeks ago, I was talking to an acquaintance of mine, and he asked, well, now that we're just adding trivial decorations to the internet, namely what happened between 1995. But by the way, internet goes back. If a person's talking about the TCP/IP protocols, goes back a long way. But talking about the worldwide experience that hundreds of millions of people have, and the web, we're talking since 1995 till 2005, and going on to now. And what my person I was talking to was saying, well, what we're doing now is just sort of like, moving around the deck chairs and adding decorations. How do you feel about this? And my reaction was, first of all, I said I do not accept the assumption. In fact, I think that we are to what the net could be now, as small and as insignificant and as unimpactful as things were before this all took off. There is so much more that can be done, that if we were to have this conversation, 10 years from now, it would be looking back at 2008 and saying, well, before things took off, what was it like back before things took off, when all you had was this and this? And there's several main things about that. One is just people talk about ubiquitous computing. There was a time when ubiquitous computing meant having a computer in every home. And now, when we say ubiquitous computing, I don't know what most people mean. They probably mean more or less what we have right now, where you have a high-end automobile might have 100 processors on board. Imagine this actually substantially more ubiquitous. And at that point, you have the embedded microprocessors, and the embedded microprocessors are networked. So it's sort of like having an internet beneath the internet, although technically it might not be. You might not look at it that way because the protocols might be the same protocols. But if a person imagines that and the integration of that with what we have now, we're in a situation where it's as though cyberspace has leaked out into the real world, or turned inside out. And so there's all sorts of things that just become remarkably different. And that's what this book, Rainbow's End, is primarily about.
Well, sir, one final question. I know you have a busy schedule, and that just basically is what's the future for you, sir? What can we be looking for? Novels, short stories, screenplays? What should we look for in the future?
What I'm working on right now is a novel, which would be is a sequel to A Fire Upon the Deep.
Okay, great. And when can we expect? Year, 2 years? 2010? Can I hold you to that? 2009? Come on, your fans want to know.
I really don't know, although having a draft completed by the end of this year would be, something that I personally would really want, and I think is conceivable.
Well, fantastic. Sir, it's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you being
Thanks,
on
Jim.
today. Folks, we hope you will stay tuned and watch more of Cult Pop. Well, folks, that's going to wrap up this episode of Cult Pop. We've got a couple of moments, so I wanted to bring you up to speed on a couple of things. I've been trying to let people know when we do the show about the website. You can go to our website, www.cult-pop.com. If you're watching on TV here in Michigan, go to the website and you can catch up on all the back episodes you may have missed. For all the folks watching on the internet, come back, look at the website, and then you can click onto some of your favorite past episodes or go directly to your authors, artists, or whatever guest was on their website as they're linked at our website. Also, we have the RSS feed feature now. Click onto that and you'll be notified anytime Cult Pop posts a new show. Keep in mind we're trying to put new shows out there just about every month, so it would be wise to do that. We also just ask you to come on by and visit. Don't forget about the guest book. We've had some interesting people sign up from across the world. Literally some friends in Canada, Australia, and all over the world have signed up. And we really just want to let you folks know it's there. And we'd like to know where some of you folks are from and some of the interesting places you might be. So once again, that's www.cult-pop.com. We want to thank so much the wonderful emails and comments we've been getting. We certainly enjoy those. And we hope you're enjoying watching the show as much as we enjoy producing it. But once again, just go to the website anytime you have to visit, and you'll be able to catch up. But that just about does it here. We had a wonderful time this year at Penguicon. We were able to interview Vernor Vinge, and what just a legend, and I'm just absolutely thrilled. In other episodes, you'll be able to see us. We had an opportunity to talk with Sherry Priest, Jim Hines. We talked with Tobias Backel, but we're going to have a future episode with him. Another friend of the show, John Scalzi, came on, and he did a wonderful interview with us. So be sure to go to the website and you can catch up on all those interviews and the fun we had at the 2008 Penguicon. We thank you so much for watching today, and we invite you to tune back to Cult Pop. Thanks.
For the people in our armed forces, it's a time of sacrifice, a time of duty. That's why we've joined together to form the Armed Forces Relief Trust to help military families cope with financial and medical emergencies at home. The 4 military aid societies gave millions last year to cover unexpected medical expenses, child care, and more. But with so many overseas, the need is greater than ever. They're serving us. Let's serve them in return.